Innovation Unplugged from the Alabama Community College System's Innovation Center takes you inside Alabama's workforce development. Join us for enlightening conversations with community leaders and industry experts showcasing experiences, addressing key issues, and celebrating successes in the workforce initiatives across the state.
Welcome back to Innovation Unplugged. I'm Houston Blackwood, Workforce Director for this fun bunch. On my right is Kailah Dozier, Director of Marketing and Corporate Partnerships. And on my left, our special guest this episode is, I call him Doctor. You're a doctor? You're not a doctor.
Hey, just call me Vice Chancellor Walters.
Yeah.
Call me David. Okay. I'm kidding.
But David Walters, our Vice Chancellor for the Adult Ed and Correctional Education in the Alabama Community College System, and one of our most colorful colleagues at the system office, and just always got a smile, always remembers the who, what, where, and your family and all that. But we're so happy to have you here.
Well, Houston, I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
Yeah. So just for the background, and people will forget between episodes, but we recorded 2 other sessions this morning. One of them from a county up in the Northeast was talking about how he wished that the industry just had a way to train adults to be ready to go to work. And we let him talk, and I was like, well, we got this thing called Adult Ed. It would work pretty good. And in the last one, Donnie Jones from West Alabama Works was talking about how all the colleges, all of workforce needs to have that warm handoff approach of Adult Ed and taking people from where you find them to the next step and literally hand them to the next people or the next thing rather than just giving them something and sending them on their way. And so knowing that you were coming on, man, and knowing how passionate you are about all those things, I thought, well, that's a beautiful segue. So give us a quick intro about who you are and what Adult Ed does.
Well, I certainly think that's a great connection there. And Donnie and I are great friends. And it's been many years I've worked on him to actually see the value of adult education. And he certainly has. And Adult Ed fits many pieces of the puzzle out there. You know, we're the ones that help individuals go back, get a high school equivalency, and we've got a lot of other programs I'll get into in a few minutes, but I just want to share quickly a little bit about me. So I've been in Alabama for 11 years now as Vice Chancellor of Adult Education and then Special Projects and Corrections Education. So I've done a little bit of everything. I've got probably over 30 years. I'm a little old, Kailah, compared to you. So. I hope so. But 30 years in the field of adult ed. So we have seen adult ed grow so much in that period of time. And we recently had a conference, and I want to thank both of y'all for being there. We had a wonderful conference of about 375 adult ed practitioners from across the state. And to have you all there just showcasing everything that's done through the Innovation Center and Skills for Success, because we utilize those tools a lot with our population. So, we're a population that life got in the way. They had a lot of barriers, and it may have caused them to drop out of high school. And so we're the educational entity that helps them get back into life again, get back into education and training. And we're the people that handhold them, like you said, and we do it in a way that really gets them prepared for the workforce. So we've got a couple ways in Alabama to help someone get a high school equivalency. So the first one is the GED, General Educational Development Diploma. And certainly that's something that's really recognized nationally. And sometimes all people think we do is the GED. We do so much more than that. But I do want to talk about the GED real quickly. In the state of Alabama, we produce probably around 4,000 to 5,000 GEDs a year. And that's for individuals who certainly have dropped out of high school, and they may have been out 10, 15, 20 years or more, and they go back and get this equivalency that will help them be more employable. We also created something back in 2016, 2017 that we just codified in law this session called the High School Diploma Option Program. And that's a program where we can help adults who have dropped out of high school in Alabama and have at least 10 credits, build credits to get an actual high school diploma from the last school they attended in Alabama.
Oh, wow.
So it's not an equivalency, it's an actual high school diploma. Now, that was codified in law through the REACH Act, and that's the Restoring Educational Attainment for completing high school. So that's a program that we had a lot of support bipartisan support from both the House and the Senate, so it went through with flying colors. And
That's
very
what you
proud
just
of
signed
them.
for, right?
That's what
All
we
the
just signed
pictures.
for. All the
Yes.
pictures. Yeah.
That's amazing.
And Boone Kiner. Boone was really a driving force politically to help us get that through as well. And Matt Woods, Representative Woods, it's now Senator Woods. And certainly he's been a big supporter of adult education over the last few years. And we really appreciate that.
Where's his region, Matt Woods? Is it over in Gadsden area?
He's over in the Bevel area. So, yeah.
Oh, the other way. Okay.
Yeah. He's over in that
I
area.
remember seeing he was on the board for a minute.
He was several years. And Matt's just a good friend and does a wonderful job. Certainly as a board member for the community college system, but as a representative, and certainly he'll do the same as a senator. So we appreciate him.
That's a really, that high school diploma option, that's a huge deal.
It is.
And I remember seeing it come around, but hearing it, bring it up now, like I've got a GED, carries such a connotation. I won't say good or bad, but people, the GED is as a thing, but having a high school diploma is a different thing. That's really cool.
It is. It is. So,
will they run concurrent, or can you?
Yeah, you can. We actually use portions of the GED assessment to allow someone to build credits.
Okay.
So the GED is accredited through the American Council on Education. So all of those individual assessments can be equated to college credit. And if we can give college credit for it, we can give high school credit because we work that into the program that we have that, hey, it makes sense. If we can give college credit, doesn't it make sense that we ought to be able to give high school credit? So,
no nonsense.
So we've done that. And we also use the Alabama Career Essential Program, the Mobilizing Alabama's Pathway programs. We also use ACT work keys and those things. We use Innovation Center classes. We also do integrated education and skills training, where we're combining academics, foundational, reading and math with skills training.
Is that the IET?
That's the IET.
It's the IET.
Yeah.
So when I was a teacher, my first year of teaching, 2004-05 school year was the first year of inclusion in Alabama, I think nationally. So I had to, and I had not been trained on dealing with non-traditional students. I deal with teaching non-traditional students. So then, the special ed teacher that was with me had never been trained on a general classroom. She had been self-contained her whole career, like 25 years. So here we go. So working that IEP for those students, individualized education plan. So no different than the IET, really. Even though the IET doesn't fit for a certain student, it's for a program, right? For a whole program. But seeing that now, 20 years later, almost exactly 20 years later, it's really cool to be able to take what I'm doing now to marry to that and to see those things flourish. And so we talked a lot about that at your conference last week.
Yeah. And the simple thing to remember about an IET is it has a single set of learning objectives. Okay. So what I mean by that is that's where adult ed and the technical instructor will work together on planning what is going to occur within that class. So the technical instructor already knows how they're going to teach the technical skills, but how do we blend in some basic reading and math to make that program even better? Because we know there's a lot of individuals that even though they may have a high school diploma, they're still deficient in reading and math. And that's another issue that we have in our state, and it's national as well. We have a lot of individuals who, even though they have a high school diploma, they're still not reading and doing math at the level that will help them be successful in the workforce.
You're right. At Calhoun, when I worked there, we had a line worker program.
Yeah.
The best thing I ever did for that program was to get them involved with adult ed for that very reason. Because those boys and girls had to do some math at some point to figure out like the amperage and volts, all that conversions. And it wasn't hard math, but like if you didn't pay attention and you went to school that just passed you on through, and convert, like algebra was tough. And so getting rid of the X, getting rid of the letters out of math is tough. But what they did, and it improved a lot. And there's some boys and girls that didn't need it. And Dana and her team up there were really good. And Wendy and Mindy at the time were all good to let folks go through who didn't need anything. Man, the ones who we captured made a huge difference.
And we focus all of our students on career pathway. So not only we're preparing them for a high school equivalency or just basic academics or the ability to read, write, speak the English language. We work with a lot of individuals that are English language learners. But all of those individuals get skills as well. So employability skills, skills to pay the bills, as we call them, those soft skills that certainly they need in order to get a job and keep a job. And then we also work in, like we said earlier, the technical skills. How do we work that in? And then certainly digital literacy. We certainly use a lot of electronics. We're doing it right now, but many of our population, they're not used to using technology in the way we're using it. So how can we help them do that? Because that's a skill set that the workforce needs. And so we're focused on that as well. So adult ed is really part of the workforce ecosystem. Really aren't, and we keep growing.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, even with Donnie Jones talking about all the things that he does and what they offer through Skills for Success, it is literally woven in to every single thing that we're doing. And when it comes to that high school option, I know it's new, but you guys have been working on that for quite some time. And so for the awareness piece and the outreach piece, obviously, any of our students that come through a Skills for Success program partnering with adult ed, we would want them to know.
Absolutely.
But I know that your team is looking for different outreach opportunities, so we would love to support that as well. Anything you guys have going on, that is definitely something that I think would be helpful and beneficial, and just the knowledge of how do they go about getting that, or what do they have to do to partner with your individual adult ed programs to work through that process, because I would think it's a little bit different.
We're doing
than the
that right
GED.
now. We just need to do more of it. And certainly the Innovation Center is an asset to the community college system. You really add a lot of stuff that we need, and we need to do it in a very accelerated fashion, especially for adults. They don't have semesters and years to complete things. They have weeks sometimes. So
that comment you made, where I'm always looking for the title of every episode, and Sydney gave me creative rights to help her with that. But having the skills to pay the bills, you like
that.
I love that. Do you use that often?
I do.
Okay.
I do.
Well, I'm gonna use it, but I think that's important because you talk about that timeliness of having a paycheck.
Yeah,
just getting that first paycheck in.
That's right.
Like, my gosh, I remember there was a time not long ago I was unemployed. When I got that first real paycheck, it was like my world changed for a minute.
Absolutely.
Until I paid those, and then I need another one. But man, like, having been in that situation, knowing the importance, and I had a degree, I had papers to fall back on, and I had some skills, not many, but if going from nothing to having something, man, that changes.
It changes lives. It makes life better.
Not to be cheesy. About
certainly
that,
those incumbent workers, we work with them as well. We know a lot of our adults are already working. So what we want to do is be flexible in our service model. So we certainly have face-to-face classes that can occur during the day, but we have things in the evening. And we also have a lot of what I call virtual classes as well. So it's the traditional online classes, but it's also, we have virtual classes where we have almost like a Zoom meeting, but we have a teacher that will get a group together. And man, you can get a lot of things done in a Zoom class, just like you do with a Zoom meeting. So certainly we utilize technology to our advantage. Because what we're always trying to do is serve more people, but serve them as efficiently as we can.
And that's something I struggled at when I worked at the college with. It felt like to me at the time, and it was, I think, a misperception that everybody had to get everything. Like if I said, hey, here's my whatever class, hand it off to adult ed, that everybody's going to have to do everything all the time. And and I saw guys too that even I was partnered with ATN to serve that needed some adult ed services.
Yeah, and we can do that.
Yeah, and so. And thinking about that, this new horizon that we're coming around, and maybe I'm spilling the tea on this, but having like a really more collaborative, meshed approach from adult ed from the start, for a person's journey, all the way over here to ATN where they're learning some advanced stuff, and what all of this is in the middle. And how they jump in and jump out where needed. And I think that's the puzzle right now that none of us really know, because we've never said, hey, let's actually do this.
Yeah.
Let's actually make it happen that way. I have no idea how it looks.
Well, it's like an educational highway. You got on-ramps and off-ramps. So certainly those are things that we can support in adult ed, and certainly you all as well. So by working together, we can give everyone that comes through our doors what they need and do it in a very timely way and really in demand. There's a lot of programs that we offer that's just in demand, and you can enroll in adult ed anytime. You don't have to wait till beginning of the semester. You can enroll anytime you want to.
And you guys have a lot of credentials.
We do.
Like a ton. I mean, I say,
Glad you mentioned that.
Well, I was looking at your notes. I stole your thunder. You actually prepared for the show.
You're stealing his
I did
notes.
not.
Cool.
That's okay.
It was a good segue.
I don't look at them anyway most of the time.
But you talked about that, those on ramps and off ramps, and those off ramps can be. I've got a certificate now. I'm off for a minute.
That's right.
Let me do my thing. So talk about that process that you've seen around the state and how folks come in with nothing, get one thing, two things, and move off, and then come back.
That's right.
Tell us about that.
Yeah, I'd love to. So I'll do it in the sense of a decade of progress.
Okay.
If you remember at the conference, I kind of shared that with our adult ed practitioners. So if you go back to 2014 in the state of Alabama, we were mainly focused on GED only. That was it. Now, we did do a little work keys and stuff, but it wasn't much. Fast forward to today, not only do we do GED, but we do the High School Diploma Option Program. We also do English language civics education, which is a whole different animal that I'll get into in a few minutes. But we also, the skills and the certifications that we do, we weren't doing anything back in 2014. Today, we're doing about 29,000 certifications a year. Okay.
From all the different people.
That's right. So now you could have a person that has multiple certifications.
Yeah.
So it's not 29,000 individuals necessarily, but it's individuals that have multiple certifications that they got through adult ed. So ServSafe, OSHA 10, those type of things. Also MSSC, that program, certainly we do all that. CPT, CLT, CLA, we can help with all that. So we do that, and then we have North Star Digital Literacy. I mentioned digital literacy earlier. So certainly that's a very important piece of what we do. We want to make sure that people have digital literacy skills, but we got to have something that demonstrates that they have those skills. North Star Digital Literacy is an assessment that allows us to show an employer, hey, this person has digital literacy skills.
I'm going to show you something. Your people out there showing off. So James Williams at Bishop State.
Bishop.
You know James Williams?
Yeah, I do know James.
He works with Brad Wallace, and he does all kinds of stuff. That man is wild. All the stuff that he knows. But he sent me this thing yesterday on his Google site, and I've never done this on the show, but you mentioned North Star, so he's got this whole plan, and so
forklift. We do forklift certification.
And maybe I shouldn't be showing this because maybe it's not ready, but all the things that he was showing off was all the different steps, and I was blown away at how detailed all this stuff is. But I saw the North Star on there, and I meant to ask you about it. But like when you look at this, like this is a couple weeks worth of work, but they get about 10 different certifications in those 10 certifications in 2 weeks.
In 2 weeks,
and a forklift, and then eventually maybe a CDL.
Yeah. And we also digitally badge things as well. So there's certain things that shows that you've got a skill set without having a full certification. So those badges can certainly build up into a certification, but a badge alone could be enough for an employer to go ahead and hire someone. So
I think too, like in the midst of all of that, I guess is the space to talk about these things. But with all of the certifications and badges, when we talk about in our world, everyone's like, oh, yes, that is great. But when and where are they getting jobs and how are you tracking them? Yeah. And so I think I don't know how you described it a second ago, but as we're kind of moving into this new world of partnership and having a seamless transition through all the options that every community college across the state has, that we work truly as a system, capturing those jobs, the outcomes, all of that is such a big topic of conversation now.
Yeah.
And I think it's good, and it will continue to be a topic of conversation. So how do you feel about all of that, or what does that look like for your world of tracking?
So adult ed's been tracking information for decades.
Yeah.
So and we've gotten really sophisticated
Okay.
at it. So at the federal level, we have certain measures that we have to go by. We have something called measurable skill gains and the educational functional levels. Those are gains that shows that a student is going to the next level. And those measurable skill gains can be done through multiple ways. It can be done through assessments, through achievements, certifications, through completing an IET, through completing a Skills for Success course.
Okay.
Those type of things will help them gain a measurable skill gain. We also have an employment goal that we have to have. So many of our students that we serve through adult ed has to end up in
Got it.
employment. Okay, so we do data matching with the UI records here in Alabama, and then there's also something called the State Wage Information System. We data match with them as well. So the Department of Commerce, which is now called the Department of Workforce here in Alabama, does that matching for us. Adult education is Title II of the Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act. So you have Title I, which is operated by the Workforce Cabinet, which is Wagner Pizer, out of school youth, some of those type of programs, adults, which is different than adult education. But those are more training programs or funding sources for training. And then adult education, which is specifically for those individuals that are learning to read, write, speak the English language, that have dropped out of high school, or they're basic skill deficient in one or more areas. We work with them to build their skill level up. And then you have Title III and then Title IV. So Title III is Wagner Pizer, which is unemployment insurance, basically, is what we used to call that. And then also you have Title IV, which is rehabilitation services. So we work very closely with those partners. And we have other partners as well that's not part of the big WIA, but they're under WIA. So like the Alabama Department of Human Resources, we work very closely with them on a couple funding sources and programs. So we have TANF education and training and SNAP education and training. So we get funding for individuals that are TANF eligible and SNAP eligible that we serve through adult education and get them placed into employment. So we get additional dollars coming into the system for that.
Remind me what TANF stands for and SNAP for the audience.
Yeah, so TANF is Temporary Assistance for Needy Families. That's what we used to call welfare, if you remember that. And then SNAP is Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, which is what we used to call food stamps. Okay.
I saw it at a grocery store. I recognized SNAP, but TANF was drawing a blank.
Yeah.
And people out there in our listening audience,
and usually I'm good at that. Houston, I usually always spell it out before I use an acronym. But this time, you all have made me forget where I am. We're just having a conversation.
So we just have so many acronyms of
We do.
everything.
It's
And even
alphabet soup,
yes,
isn't it?
the companies have acronyms, and when they come in here and we're like, please spell that out. We don't know.
That's right.
I gave a presentation one time at county, and it was about the COT and the COP and the CLA and the MSSC, and they were like,
Gosh.
"What are you an ATN? What are you doing?" And I'm like, because I just had it up there.
Yeah.
I was talking like they knew what I knew, but
Like RTW, Ready to Work. And Ready to Work became ACE, which is Alabama Career Essentials. So the ACE program is what was formerly called Ready to Work, but it's more of a virtual program now and very dynamic. It's built on the same platform as the Skills for Success programs. So it's a good program.
It's really good. I think as we move into the next 6 months, a year, and we mesh those more consistently,
the
skills and the ACE, it's going to be really good. But I'm gonna throw this hard ball at you. I'm gonna throw a fat ball because we get it all the time.
Okay.
And I was talking to somebody the other day that's been around for forever, decades, man, like maybe 40 years, and someone still didn't know about what they do. And I'm like, how have you been around for 40 years and people don't know what you're doing? So when we had the gentleman on earlier who didn't know, it didn't call it ACE, didn't call it adult education, but apparently didn't know that there was a thing that somebody could use for adult workers or to get people. So how do you get around them? And this is for you too. How do you get around the marketing hurdle of never heard about you? Gosh, I wish I'd known 10 years ago.
Yeah, best kept secret.
How does that happen? Because we do social media better than most
We do.
government organizations, like all of our groups, the ACS too. So collectively, for y'all, how do we get past that stinking hurdle of I never heard about you?
Well, I think it's what we're doing today. I think certainly, and then continuing to grow with our partners out there and making sure that we're always at the table. We certainly are at the table in the state workforce board, the regional workforce councils, works very closely with the career centers. All of that gets the word out on what we do. And then how do we market even more, get on TV. So I'm constantly trying to do things and other folks as well. So we're trying to always do that and get out in front of all this, but it's challenging, isn't it, Kailah?
Oh gosh, yes. And I think also, what do we say a lot? People don't care about anything until they care about it, until something happens in their family or they have somebody that has been affected or rewarded. And so I feel like even just George, when he talks about his mom and the impact that she had on him, and then how the community college affected his life. And so he's a spokesperson in his world for what we do. And so word of mouth and like personal experiences, I think, are the best marketing tools.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But I think it's twofold. The next workforce is in our high schools right now. So they are seeing ACE. They are seeing Skills for Success. They're seeing employers come on their campus and interview them and observe them and share about career paths. Well, in 20 years, those individuals are going to be us sitting here talking about the next workforce. But there is that generation that maybe it didn't know about or doesn't right now know about adult ed or the opportunities through the community college system. And so that's who the billboards are for, and the commercials and the websites. And literally, I say from the pulpit half the time, when we go to conferences and share. But I think the response, and David, you were gold standard for responses and like just making someone feel loved and comfortable when you tell them something new that in your head you're like, I've known this forever, but I'm gonna say it like you've never heard it before. And so it's just making those individual
speech.
Aware.
Everybody needs to have an elevator speech.
Absolutely. And so those are just nuggets that I think when you run into somebody and you share, and you're saying like, hey, we actually have that option and it looks like this, or it used to be called this. A lot of the times individuals, like you explaining the TANF and SNAP, I knew them as other terms. And so I just think it's a beautiful thing, though, when the light bulb goes off and then that person becomes a spokesperson for what you do. So I think the marketing is just to continue.
And that's what we try to do. We build advocates in adult education, people that will go out and speak for us. So all the partnerships, all of our students, we see them as advocates. Somebody used to say to me, hey, you have a high turnover of people in adult ed. They're leaving adult ed, going into other positions. And what do you think about that? And I said, I think it's great. They said that you're losing someone. I said, I'm not losing anyone. I have built an advocate that now is in a new position, but they value adult ed because they see what we do and how we change lives. We are certainly changing lives out there, and it's not easy. We're working with individuals with a lot of barriers. But to go back to something you said, think of that 10 years of progress. We went from 2014 probably serving around 20,000 people to serving around 30,000 now, doing really no workforce certifications to now doing about 29,000 workforce certifications, doing probably 1,000, 1,200, 1,300 GEDs to now well over 2,000 to 3,000 or more each year. So, that is progress. Okay. Now, what you said earlier is the people that are in our high schools right now will be us in the future. We hope that in 2035, the progress is even greater because that's what we're doing here. It's always about building a better mousetrap. We're doing some really good things, but how can we continue to enhance them and make them better? And that's what I like about all of us working together because we're really hand in hand on this. So
And it's going to be progress. I say this all the time. My little girl is 2 years old, and I feel like one day she's going to be like, Mom, I just got back from my space shuttle. What are you been doing? Like just the thing, we have our phone, and I talk to my dad, and my dad's like, my phone keeps going off. What am I doing wrong? I'm like, Dad, just bump the thing down,
that's right.
But what is my little girl going to tell me of like, Mom,
That's right.
just do this?
Yeah.
There's no telling what it's going to be like.
So that's a great point. How do you know when you're taking students from wherever they are when life stopped them, hit pause, and you're taking them to what you have now, but knowing that it's changing fast.
Yeah.
And wherever they go work, like there's some guys from Wallace Hansville, Living Free. They started them great, Adult Ed, Patty Wilkins, and April McRock. And one of them texted me, he was like, hey man, I did all your excavator stuff. All your heavy equipment. I got a job working maintenance at a manufacturing facility, but those trainings got him the job. Odd. He said, how do I need more training?
Yeah.
Industrial maintenance. He wants to go back to school. So thinking like, how are you going to push them forward to something else, but knowing that whatever you have available is not even ready yet.
Yeah.
Do you ever think about that?
Well, we do. Certainly, we're always thinking about the future and what is the future going to look like. I've got a team of my folks right now in Montgomery that's going through some scenarios like that. What does adult ed need to look like in the future? Sure. And how can we gain efficiencies? We're doing some really good things, but how can we go from good to great? And what would it take for us to do that? And how can we do that? Maybe it's not always more staff. It's not always more money, but it's using the staff and the money that you have right now more effectively and efficiently.
We just did that, man. I use the word maximize our budget.
Yeah.
Like hard. Like really, we maxed it out.
Tough, isn't it?
And so we kind of looked around, and we started about a year ago looking around, and we realized that day was coming. And so we finally did, and we had to adjust some things. And we brought the colleges in and said, hey, 7 of them, how's this look? And they helped us, and then we rolled it out to all of them yesterday.
Yeah.
But we had to make some adjustments to modify, to make better use of what we have.
Absolutely.
So we can keep going faster, knowing that there's a lot more coming that we've not even seen yet.
That's right.
We're not even heard about or been asked to do. And including our process of expanding into working with adult ed on building those things together, but also expanding and rebuilding some ATN stuff.
That's right.
So now like when here, and this is what's crazy, maybe I've been late to the game. A person comes into adult ed, whether their on-ramp is, and they see the same process, the same look for every course. Everything they do looks just about the same, and then they get a job, and then here comes ATN having the same dang format. So like, how comfortable is that for that learner? Like, it's new content, but the environment feels the same.
Right.
Now, if that's
because they're used to it.
If that's not what we're trying to do, then I'm out. Right? Like, not really. I don't quit, but I'm saying like, why are we not trying to make it as seamless and consistent for that person, whatever the ramp, all the way into the
Absolutely, I agree.
And so they're hearing all that stuff and not having any clue what's coming next. Feels like that's what that future looks like, is a seamless seamless option.
Something else you said, it's kind of inclusiveness. It's hard to argue with what you help create. Remember that. It's hard to argue with what you help create. And if we get more people in part of creating what we're doing together, so it's a together thing, and we're not just pushing something down to the colleges or pushing something on someone, but we've got them part of the creation process. It's hard to argue with that. And they're going to utilize it, and they're going to utilize it to its fullest potential.
I feel like he just put words to the philosophy behind task forces.
Oh, for sure.
And,
Absolutely. That's right.
they come on board and they walk alongside. And but I think the community college system at large does that well with inviting industry to the table.
Yeah. Because all of our training is really based on the needs of business and industry. I mean, it's designed by business and industry. So it's incumbent that business and industry, when they're part of it, they're going to hire from it.
Oh, gosh.
Because it doesn't make any sense if they don't.
Sure.
If they're going to be part of something, but they don't hire the product.
Yeah.
Then shame on them. And I think we are seeing that our companies are buying our product, and they're loving our product.
Love it.
What do you think, if you could pull out adult ed outcomes, what is the economic impact of adult ed
wow.
programs?
Yeah.
Like in terms of like for the industry, for the people, for whatever. Like what do you think, man? Like in dollar figures. Is there any way to track that?
Well, there's not a specific way necessarily, but I will tell you this: someone without a high school diploma is more likely to be in trouble and be incarcerated. They are more likely to have health problems. They're more likely to be transient, in and out of jobs. They're more likely to do a lot of things. Someone with a high school equivalency or a high school diploma or higher has more chance of being successful, and they earn about $10 an hour more than someone without, 7 to 10. With our economy now, it's probably around that figure, but we'll say $7 to $10 more. Think about that. That's really over a lifetime. That's millions, and certainly for our population, billions of dollars. We've got right now in Alabama, and at one time Alabama probably had close to 1 million people without a high school diploma or GED, and then down to around 500,000. Now we're around 321,000. We've reduced it that much over a decade plus, but certainly that's a game changer when you are changing someone's life like that and getting them back into the economy. I mean, someone without a high school diploma that has dropped out, some of them could be working, but there's probably not a lot of jobs that's going to hire you unless you have a high school diploma. What I tell people all the time is the most recognized credential in the workforce is the high school diploma. Yeah. Think about that. We don't think about that always. We think about other certifications. But if you look at what most employers require, what do they require? At least a high school diploma.
Minimum.
So minimum. So that is a workforce certificate, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Adult ed, unfortunately, doesn't have workforce in our name, but we have workforce in our DNA. So what we do as people and how we are helping others, it's all about workforce development and certainly economic development. When you're talking about when you change someone's life, an adult, you're changing the life of their children. You mentioned your child earlier. Your child models every day after you, and certainly you're able to provide for your child. So if we can get more people in the situation of providing for their families and their children and have a good, safe environment, then we're going to have more kids that's growing up with a high school diploma and with skills that they're able to get into the workforce in Alabama. So
I think we see that changing even too with, I don't know what the formal name, but now high school students can get a workforce diploma. That's what it is, where they can, forego certain English or math or whatever it is that would allow them to have a workforce diploma. And so even with that, we see school systems kind of changing that approach and that narrative. So more people do have high school diplomas. That's and they're already setting themselves up for that next, example or whatever that looks like for their family. Yeah. And so we always say we're constantly working ourselves out of a job, but what a beautiful picture that would be.
Absolutely.
But there's obviously humans, and we're always going to have different things that we're working on to improve. And so all of that, I think, to say working together
That's right.
makes Alabama, our nation, our world better. And so I think the coolest part about our jobs is that we get to see that on so many different levels, and being a part of the community college system lends itself to seeing those stories being written.
We get to see it when it's born. We get a lot of times in our jobs, we get to see the idea be born.
Yeah.
And then it become like a thing. And then you have actual people who've done the thing.
Yeah.
And that's really cool.
It's about planting seeds and then watering that and seeing it germinate and see it become a plant and continue to grow. Yeah. And you got to keep watering it or it will die on the vine. And we certainly don't want that. So it really takes all of us working together to help people be successful. And it's so beneficial when you see that. I mean, some of the stories we could all tell on students and their success. That single mother that went back, earned her GED or high school diploma, who now went into one of our welding programs and now working at Austal or Ingalls or somewhere else making thousands of dollars. And certainly that's life changing. And we do that constantly through Adult Ed, through the Innovation Center, through every service that we provide through the Alabama Community College system. And I haven't even talked about corrections yet.
Well,
Think about that.
we've got about 5 minutes for that there. So, and it's it's part of your title, but some of those programs we've worked with Ingram a lot,
Yes.
and
they do a wonderful job.
So give us a spiel, man. Like you got all kinds of crazy stories there too. I mean, just wild successes.
Well, certainly President Funderburg and her team at Ingram is doing a really good job of serving the state correctional facilities and those individuals that are incarcerated. And we have a lot of individuals that are, being paroled out and going through a day reporting center, which Ingram State takes care of that work as well. So a lot of great things going there. And then we have a lot of jails in our communities, and our colleges and our adult ed programs are serving them as well. And then so we're constantly looking at ways to help those individuals that have justice involved, is what we like to call them, instead of ex-felons or incarcerated, justice involved individuals. So those are individuals that we're constantly looking at, not only serving as they're getting released or while they're in prison, but how can we do it at the beginning where they never get sentenced to prison? How can we work with the court system? And we're doing that in many cases through drug court and other local court systems, through adult education and through other areas of the college system, to get them into training that will then lead into sustainable employment, where they can pay restitution, pay child support and other things, and then judges will reduce their sentence and their time if they do that. So if we can start getting it on the front end, we start reducing the pipeline, the people going in to incarceration. So we're trying to look at ways of doing that. And I think you all were part of the group that met with Chief Justice Sarah Stewart and her team recently to talk about opportunities there.
The Reconnect Academy.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. I watched Shawshank Redemption at the beach last week one night, and watching those guys, Morgan Freeman's character, get out and go work and ask permission to go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
But what I was going to is I went out to my car and like the key was in my pocket and I just touched the doorknob.
Yeah.
And it unlocked and lights came on. Like that's going to blow somebody's mind if they've been inside a facility for 10 years.
Oh, absolutely.
And so, or just smartphones and whatnot. So,
so that's a skill set that we're training on. So before they get released, we're making sure they understand how to navigate the world when they get released and use technology. Because at the end of the day, a lot of companies, your resume and your job application will be done on your phone. It's not going to necessarily be done the old-fashioned way. So certainly, how can we prepare our individuals that have been incarcerated to be able to navigate that new system? And then also just emotionally, when they went in, they may have been married. When they come out, they may not be married anymore. And their kids may not be kids. They may be grown, but they still owe back child support. So what happens there? There's a lot of barriers right there. How do they deal with that? Well, we try to help them emotionally, mentally to deal with that. And then by getting them into sustainable employment and get them where they can get their feet up under them. And you got to do it with a job higher than just, in the retail service or in the fast food. So you got to do more than that.
Something with some satisfaction to it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's where Skills for Success, Adult Ed, hand in hand comes into, and getting them in and placing them into really good sustainable wage employment.
Yeah, I think, and that's our living wage is what we call it, sustainable wage. There was a time I went from making a lot of money to making $10 an hour.
Yeah.
So I get it.
Yeah.
It's tough.
It's tough. It's tough. And we've got some supports out there to help that population. So we created a program through the Alabama Department of Human Resources that we call Next Step. And we've got Gary Weaver in our workforce division kind of leading that. And Gary has a lot of energy, great guy, wonderful. And boy, he just, you turn him loose and he'll take off with it. So it's a program that's about a 3-month program. It's a subsidy program for an employer to hire someone who's formerly incarcerated. So they have to be eligible for the TANF program, Temporary Assistance for Needy Families, but it's most of them when they come out of prison, they're going to be eligible. So the eligibility is low income. Certainly they would fit that because they're not working. Another one is, do they have children or owe back child support? Well, the answer is most of them do. So most of them's going to qualify for it. And then we can, if we can get them into sustainable employment, then we can subsidize an employer up to 3 months, basically, to up to $15 an hour. So if the job pays $30, we'll pay $15 of that. If the job pays $20, we'll pay $10 of that.
That's impressive, and that gives them a chance to
Gives them a chance, opportunity.
an opportunity for the student coming out, but for the company to take a chance on somebody
That's right.
to give that student a chance to earn their place back in society. You know,
That's right. That's right.
That kind of grease those skids for them.
Because, we feel confident that while they were incarcerated, we've given them the skills. So when they get released, they have the adult ed skills or the technical skills. What we can't always guarantee is because they are an ex-felon, an employer will take a chance on them. So we work very closely with a lot of employers out there that do, but we need more. And we have employers all the time saying, yeah, I would, but they don't. So this might be a way to incentivize those employers that are thinking that they would and they might want to try it, but this would incentivize them to do it. So we're trying to do some things creatively and innovative way to help our individuals that are formerly incarcerated get into the workforce. So
Yeah, the word it keeps coming back to me is seamless.
seamless, yeah.
So
Seamless transition.
yeah,
Because we're all serving the same employers. And so it's like, how do we give them this whole package
Yeah.
at one time? Or is that kind of too much and there's space? There's different people at every company that handle different things.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, I honestly don't incorporate anything into my world unless I fully understand it, right? And it takes time to understand all your resources and what's out there. So I think that we've done a good job with the system, but when it's on our lips on all different departments, it makes that seamless transition
Mm-hmm.
a reality.
of reality of yes.
Let me share another program with you. Just
Yeah.
since I'm talking about corrections, about a year ago, I got to know Commissioner John Helm of the Department of Corrections. Just a great guy, but I'd never met John before. So I went over and introduced myself and got to know him. And I was telling him what I do and what we do in the community college system. And certainly he knows what Ingram does, but we're always looking at ways to improve and enhance what we do. So one of the things I always try to do is what's in it for me? Because if I go in saying, hey, I want you to do this for me, it's really what's in it for them. Okay, so you got to sell them first on what you can do for them and help them be successful. So a question I asked Commissioner M is, what keeps you up at night? Doing this job, what is that? And he said, well, it's about safety and security. And I said, well, what does safety and security mean to you? Safety and security of the general public, safety and security of the inmates that I'm responsible for, and making sure that society, certainly as we can release them, they can go back into society in a very safe way, an orderly way. And I said, well, what's the key component for that? He said, well, one of the key components is actually correctional officers. I said, well, tell me a little bit about that. He said, well, in Alabama, we have safety and security officers, and then we have correctional officers. Well, correctional officers are almost like a police officer. Mm-hmm. They can actually write you a ticket. So just be careful if you ever pass an Alabama Department of Corrections vehicle. Certainly they could do that. I'm not saying they will, but they could, because they are a police officer. Safety and security officers are not, okay? So they don't have the same abilities, and they are not able to carry a gun and other things like that. Now, they do play an important role, but they certainly are not at the same level as a correctional officer. And I said, well, are you able to transition your safety and security officers into becoming correctional officers? And he said, well, for some that are able to do it, but there's a lot that are not. And I said, well, what do they need to be able to do? And he said, well, they need to have physical ability to do so many push-ups, to run a mile in a certain amount of time, to have physical stamina, because all of the doors and everything in the correctional facility is very heavy. So you got to be in really good shape. And I said, well, what else besides that? And he said, well, academically, they got to be able to write reports that will stand up in the court of law. And you got to be able to read and comprehend what you're reading. You got to be able to write well. Okay, guess what? We can do a lot of that in adult ed. The physical training we had never done before, but we are now doing it. So we created a program called Activate. You've probably heard me talk about the Activate program. Just last week, we completed our class with our 100th individual. So think about my conversation with the commissioner was in probably February, March of 2024. We created a course, had it rolled out by August 2024. So now you fast forward to July of 2025, we've had 100 people go through that. Wow. Of that 100, we've had probably about 70, roughly 60 to 70 that have went through the academy and completed it, okay? Maybe only 2 out of that did not. So that's right there is a 98% success rate. The other 34 or so that just completed the program last week, we had several colleges doing the programs over the last week or so. They have completed those 34 now in the academy, and we feel confident that those 34 will complete. So these individuals went from being safety and security officers at the level that they would probably never become a correctional officer. We got them in both physical and mental shape, academic shape. Now, when they go into the correctional academy, guess who the top students are in the correctional academy?
Wow, the students.
Many of them are the ones that went through Activate. So it's been a perfect partnership relationship. Those are things that started in just a little conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
What matters to you? And so always think about that, because sometimes we go in as educators and we're always wanting people to do things for us. We need you to refer people to us. We need you to do this, do that. If we go to them and start getting to know them and knowing what their problems and challenges are, and we're able to fix it, we've taken a different approach to that. And now they see us differently. They see us very differently. That's why you have people saying, hey, we need more adult ed doing things, because they see adult ed differently now. We're not just the GED people. We're not just high school diploma people. We're people that can help solve problems, and we do it together by working together.
Final thoughts are just, I think that we still have work to do, as much work that we've put in. There's always new opportunities to share what we have to offer. And so just thank you for being on today.
Thank you.
And sharing about your work and what you do and what your team does and how you support the system, the community college system, and obviously our state, and all the hard work that your team does.
Well, I appreciate that, and I appreciate you guys. You know, if I was to summarize real quick, adult education is not remedial, but it's transformative. So remember that. Couple things I wanted to say about you guys and what you do in the Innovation Center and Skills for Success. The model that you have is really proving that speed, relevance, and support equals impact, okay? Just think about that. You are very impactful for residents of this state, for the economic developers in the state, and certainly for overall workforce and economic development in the state of Alabama. And I really feel like Alabama's leading the way when it comes to innovation, creativity, and all that. So, and we're doing it together, aren't we?
Absolutely. It's fun. It's a fun ride.
That's right.
Any final thoughts from you?
I just have more questions. How to make it work.
Time's up.
The time's up. Yeah, no, like more questions on what's next for us as we walk out of these doors and take these ideas and these feel goods into, okay, well, here's how we really make that happen for these groups of
and
people.
we will.
And it's just taking time. I think the next 6 months to a year we'll see a huge shift in how things are done.
Yeah.
I thought a year ago we'd be doing something on the national stage with Skills for Success, and we have twice, 3 times now actually. So I think in the next year we'll see like that seamless transitional highway for our students.
I agree.
And it'll be something that we can all sell cohesively. So
Well, and adult ed students need the training that you all offer. That's why adult ed is high users of the Innovation Center classes, and we want to use it even more. But we want to do it in conjunction with our workforce team at the colleges. So we're not doing it separately, but we're doing it together. So we're always looking at ways to do that.
Yep.
One thing I didn't say, that if I could in the last few minutes, is not only are we through the Alabama Community College system, but we have a couple providers that's outside of the community college system that plays a great role in our state. So Watauga County Family Support in Watauga County is funded through adult education. And we also have Goodwill Easter Seals of the Gulf Coast that works very closely with Bishop. They do a great job. And then the Alabama Institute for Deaf and Blind, we work with them on a lot of things, and they're a great partner. So we can't do what we do without all of those other partners as well.
We met 2 of those friends of yours at the Adult Ed Conference, and so we were thankful that they joined us and got to hear the full spill, and they seemed excited, so we look forward to partnering with them.
Yes.
All right.
time to go.
Okay.
Time to
Thank
go.
you, David.
That's
That
it.
is another episode of Innovation Unplugged. Please go like, subscribe, and follow on all social media platforms. Have a great day.